You think you're lazy. But here's the thing. What if you're not? What if you're just tired of doing things that don't actually matter? Because there's a difference, a big one, between avoiding something because you're unmotivated and avoiding it because your brain is trying to tell you something. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to tell which one you're dealing with. Plus, one simple test that'll clear it up in about 10 seconds. So if you've ever stared at your to-do list and felt like a disappointment to productivity culture, this one's for you. Now, I'm going to show you 3 reasons people mistake exhaustion for laziness. But first, let's talk about what laziness actually isn't. Most people think laziness is a character flaw, like you're morally deficient or something. But psychology doesn't really support that. In fact, research from self-determination theory shows that humans are naturally motivated. We're wired to learn, grow, and do meaningful things. So when you stop wanting to do something, it's not because you suddenly became a worse person. It's usually one of 3 things. Let's say you're working on a project. You know you should finish it, but every time you sit down, your brain just nopes out. Not because you're lazy, but because the project doesn't connect to anything you actually care about. A 2024 study found that when people's goals don't align with their core values, their motivation drops by 70%. Not 7%, 70%. That's not laziness. That's your brain saying, why are we doing this again? And here's the part nobody talks about. If you're forcing yourself to care about something that fundamentally doesn't matter to you, you're not being productive. You're just creating friction. Your brain makes about 35,000 decisions a day. Most of them are tiny. What to wear, what to eat, which email to answer first. But each decision uses glucose, actual brain fuel. And when you run low, your prefrontal cortex, the part that handles self-control and motivation, basically goes offline. Neuroscience research shows that after prolonged decision-making, people become more impulsive, avoid complex tasks, and default to the easiest option available. So when you can't decide what to have for dinner and end up doom scrolling instead, that's not moral failure. That's brain chemistry.
You're not lazy, you're depleted.
This one's sneaky, because burnout doesn't always look like crying in the bathroom or rage quitting your job. Sometimes it just looks like nothing. You stop caring, you stop trying, you stop feeling much of anything. And then you call yourself lazy, because at least that gives you someone to blame. But research from Psychology Today shows that high achievers are especially prone to this. Because they've been running on fumes for so long, they don't recognize exhaustion anymore. They just think they've lost their edge. Spoiler, you haven't. You're just human. So how do you know which one you're dealing with? That's where the test comes in. I'm going to give you a simple question that cuts through all the noise. But first, let's talk about what actually happens when you ignore these signals.
Here's what most people do.
They feel unmotivated, they call themselves lazy, and then they try to fix it with discipline. More caffeine, more alarms, more guilt. And it doesn't work. Because you can't discipline your way out of burnout. You can't willpower your way into caring about something that doesn't align with who you are. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're trying to build a side project. Every productivity guru tells you to wake up at 5 a.m. and grind. So you do. You set your alarm, you make the coffee, you sit down, and nothing. Not because you're lazy, but because you never asked yourself why you wanted to build the project in the first place. Was it because you genuinely cared, or because you thought you should? Because everyone else was doing it? Because it looked good on paper? If it's the second one, no amount of discipline is going to make you care. Your brain knows, and it's not going to cooperate. So you end up in this loop, trying harder, feeling worse, convincing yourself you're broken. But you're not broken. You're just asking yourself to run a race you never signed up for. Which brings us to the test I promised you. It's one question, and it's brutally clarifying. Ready? Here it is. If someone offered you $10,000 to do this task right now, would you? If the answer is yes, you're avoiding. Not because you can't do it, but because something about it feels uncomfortable, scary, or unclear. That's procrastination. And the fix is different. But if the answer is no, even with $10,000 on the table, you still wouldn't want to do it, that's burnout, or misalignment, or decision fatigue. And the fix isn't more discipline, it's rest, or clarity or a hard conversation with yourself about what you're actually trying to do here. Let me say that again. If you wouldn't do it for $10,000, you're not lazy, you're exhausted, or you're working on the wrong thing. And that's okay. It just means you need to stop punishing yourself and start asking better questions. So what are the better questions? Question 1, what do I actually care about? Not what you think you should care about, not what your parents want, not what looks impressive, what actually matters to you. Because research on values alignment shows that when your daily actions reflect your core values, your motivation isn't something you have to manufacture. It just happens. Question 2, am I avoiding this because it's hard or because it's wrong? Hard is uncomfortable, but it moves you forward. Wrong is exhausting, and it moves you sideways. If you're avoiding something because it's hard, that's normal. Do it anyway. But if you're avoiding it because it feels fundamentally wrong for you, maybe listen to that. Question 3, what would I do if I trusted myself? This one's the hardest, because most of us don't trust ourselves. We think we need external validation, more information, someone else's permission. But if you trusted that your lack of motivation wasn't a moral failing, what would you do differently? Maybe you'd rest. Maybe you'd quit something. Maybe you'd finally admit that the thing you've been forcing yourself to care about, you just don't. And that's not laziness, that's clarity. So those 3 reasons I mentioned earlier, misaligned effort, decision fatigue, burnout disguised as apathy, they're not character flaws, they're signals. And if you stop fighting them and start listening, you might realize you're not lazy at all. You're just done pretending. Look, you're not lazy. You're probably just tired of doing things that don't align with who you actually are. So stop punishing yourself. Start asking better questions. Ask yourself what you care about. Ask yourself if you're avoiding something because it's hard or because it's wrong. Ask yourself what you'd do if you actually trusted yourself. Because the answer isn't more discipline, it's more honesty. And if that helped, there's more where that came from. Like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. See you in the next one.